All right, today we're going to get to know our enemy. In just the next few minutes, we're diving deep into the world of malicious software, malware, the digital threats that are, let's be honest, a constant part of our lives now.
Okay, let's kick things off with a number that's, well, it's just staggering. $6 trillion. That was the estimated yearly cost of cybercrime way back in 2021, and trust me, it has only gone up from there. To give you some perspective, if cybercrime were a country, it'd have the third largest economy on the entire planet.
So what's the main weapon driving that $6 trillion problem? Yep, it's malware. At the end of the day, it's just any piece of software built to cause harm. And it's the enemy we absolutely have to understand if we want any shot at defending ourselves.
All right, so if we're going to know this enemy, first, we've got to understand their weapons. And believe me, malware isn't just one thing. It's a whole collection of different tools, each one designed to cause chaos in its own special way. So let's unpack this arsenal.
Think of this as your quick spotter's guide to the three big families of malware. You've got your viruses, which are basically parasites. Then you have worms, which are independent travelers. And finally, Trojan horses, the masters of disguise.
So just like the flu virus, a computer virus needs a host to survive and spread. It literally latches onto a legitimate program, and the moment you run that program, like opening a file or an app, you've just activated the virus, letting it copy itself and spread further.
Now, worms. Worms are a totally different animal. They don't need a host program. They're completely self-contained. They actively hunt for security holes to wiggle through and spread across networks. I mean, the famous Stuxnet worm, which, get this, was so sophisticated it actually jumped an air gap, a physical gap from the internet, just by using a flash drive. It proved that even systems we thought were totally isolated are vulnerable.
So let's just nail this down, because it's a really important difference. A virus? It's a parasite. It has to attach to something and waits for you to run it. But a worm? That thing is an independent traveler. It can move all by itself across a network, actively looking for its next victim.
You know, this ancient warning, it's the perfect way to introduce our next category. The old story of the Trojan War with that giant wooden horse used to sneak soldiers into a fortified city, well, it gives us the name for maybe the most deceptive type of malware out there.
The Trojan horse is 100% about trickery. It pretends to be something you actually want, a free game, a cool app, whatever, but hidden inside is its real malicious purpose. It can't copy itself. It depends entirely on you to be fooled into opening the gates and letting it in. And once it's inside, it can unleash anything, like the infamous Emotet Trojan that stole banking details and cost people millions.
And oh, the trickery doesn't stop with Trojans. You've also got spyware, which is exactly what it sounds like. It spies on you. There's adware, which just wants to carpet bomb you with ads. And then there's scareware, which tries to terrify you with fake virus pop-ups to trick you into buying something useless, or worse, malicious.
Okay, so now let's talk about evolution, because today's threat landscape is absolutely dominated by one type of malware that's become a whole criminal enterprise unto itself. Yeah, I'm talking about ransomware.
So, at its heart, ransomware is pretty simple. It's digital extortion, plain and simple. It scrambles all your files or locks you out of your computer completely and then holds your digital life hostage until you pay up. But these days, that's just the beginning.
You see, the bad guys got smart. They realized people were just restoring from backups and not paying, so they had to up their game. Now we have what's called triple extortion. First, they encrypt your data. Second, they steal a copy and threaten to leak it publicly. And if you still won't pay, they'll launch attacks to shut down your business or even start harassing your customers. It's an all-out pressure campaign to force you to pay.
And this level of complexity, it points to a really critical shift. Malware isn't just about some lone hacker in a basement anymore. Nope, it's a business, a full-blown professional industry.
Get ready for this. Ransomware as a service, or RAS. And yes, it works exactly like the legitimate software as a service businesses you know. The top-tier developers build the ransomware, and then they lease it out to affiliates, other criminals who actually carry out the attacks. It's the dark mirror image of the subscription economy.
And we're not talking about some clunky piece of code. A RAS subscription is like a franchise kit for criminals. It comes with everything: the software, a playbook for negotiations, data theft tools, and of course, a profit-sharing model for the developer. This has completely industrialized cybercrime, lowering the bars so pretty much anyone can launch a devastating attack.
Okay, so after all that doom and gloom, you're probably thinking, what on earth can we do about any of this? And that's a fair question.
So let's talk defense. We're not going to list a million different products, but instead focus on the core ideas, the key principles for staying resilient.
I mean, really, when you're facing an entire criminal industry, how can you possibly stay safe? It can feel a little overwhelming, right? But here's the thing. It's not hopeless. The key is to be smart and focus on the fundamental principles that make you a much, much harder target to hit.
I'm going to say this loud and clear. Your single most powerful weapon against ransomware is a good backup. But, and this is a huge but, it can't just be any backup. It has to be regularly tested, it needs to be encrypted, and most importantly, it has to be kept offline, where the attackers can't get to it. A good backup strategy literally turns a company-ending crisis into just a really, really bad.
Right. Principle 2. Think of your network like a big ship. If it's just one giant open space inside, one hole can sink the whole thing. But if you build watertight compartments, you can contain a flood to one area. That's exactly what network segmentation does. It stops a breach in one part of your network, like your email, from spreading and taking down everything else.
All right, this next one is a huge shift in thinking. The old way was kind of like a castle with a moat. Once you're inside, you're trusted. The new model? It's called zero trust. And the rule is simple. Never trust, always verify. It assumes an attacker might already be inside, so every single person and device has to prove who they are every single time they try to access anything.
And finally, we've got to talk about the fundamentals. You know, good old-fashioned cyber hygiene. Look, this stuff might seem basic, but it is absolutely non-negotiable. Keeping your software updated closes the doors that attackers use. Strong passwords with MFA are like a deadbolt on that door. And just being a little bit skeptical of weird emails, that's still one of your best defenses.
And that really brings us to the big, lingering question, doesn't it? Malware has evolved from simple code into a massive professional criminal industry. So the question we all have to ask ourselves is, are our defenses evolving fast enough to keep up? That's the real challenge ahead for every single one of us.